With Game Week 6 being a big success, it's time to lock in my Game Week 7 team selection and decide whether I need to rectify any problems that I made in my Game Week 6 wildcard. So as always, if you look forward to today's video, make sure you do drop a like, aiming for 400 as always. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for daily fantasy content. Enough waffling, let's get to today's video. So first up, let's take a look at how Game Week 6 went, and as I mentioned, it was a decent game week, but you're always going to expect that when you have played your wildcard. It is very rare that you get a red arrow off the back of changing your team entirely. It should really be a better team than what you had last week. Ended up going from 2.6 million to 1.6 million and 69 points for the game week. However, when I talk about it being a success, it actually very close could have been not a success with that late goal from Gabriel basically being a 9-point swing almost. When you look at this team, you take that late goal away from Gabriel, 60 points on a wild card up against all those managers that triple captain Erling Haaland actually would have been a bit of a bad game week. So that kind of was the story of the week. Erling Haaland delivering once again, punishing those that didn't triple captain, obviously punishing those that didn't own. Thankfully, at least I put the captaincy on him. Gabriel with that late goal, of course, really coming in clutch with a 13-pointer, and then Semenyo with those 7 points. Outside of that, and Senesi with the assist, a pretty awful game week. My double Everton not delivering, and more I think about it, maybe a bit of a mistake going for those on a wildcard. Bruno Fernandes missing his second penalty in only 6 game weeks, delivering that -1 point. It's always the most painful thing in FPL. Only thing worse this game week would have been owning is Steve. Let me know in the comment section if anybody owned him with his 2 own goals. But as I said, 69 points, it's a good game week. It's a decent green arrow. But as I said, I do feel like there was a couple of moves that I made in my wildcard that were really on the edge, that now on reflection, now that we've had game week 6, maybe should have gone for some other alternatives. For example, a Dan Burn in defence instead of Tarkowski to save 0.5 million. Someone like an Ismail Assar who was returning from injury now with decent long-term fixtures. And of course, maybe someone like a Bukayo Saka as opposed to Gyökeres. But all in all, I'm happy with the team from game week 6. Let me know how many points you scored in the comments section. What we're going to do now is take a look at the hot topics going into game week 7. Looking at a wildcard team for game week 7. And of course, my team locked in alongside my long-term plan. So let's get into that now. So if we take a look at an example of a game week 7 wildcard team. Now I have to put it out there. I have built this team with a little bit of an idea of showing off a few differentials that haven't even been on our agendas for game week 6. Just to show you some of the maybe upside picks that you could go for if you were planning a wildcard. Because I do think there was benefits in holding off on using it. A couple of weeks after everybody used it in game week 4, we had some information. And the same is going to apply for those that used it in game week 6 going into 7 and 8. So I do think there are going to be some players that you can go for that are going to break the template. Because let's be honest, there are a lot of template teams out there right now, including myself. So this isn't exactly what my wildcard team would be for game week 7, but it isn't too far off it. So first of all, I want to address the goalkeepers because a lot of people went for the Raya plus Dubravka combination, which of course is 9.5 million of your budget. So the other way that you could look at it is possibly going for a 5 million goalkeeper in the shape of Pope and a 4.5 million option like Sunderland's Roofs here. So you're spending the exact same amount of money on 2 goalkeepers, but you're actually going for a bit of a different combination as opposed to what the template is. Again, if I had to pick one long term, it would be David Raya, but I'm just trying to provide a little bit of an alternative here for you guys that are looking at it. Just to show you how this goalkeeper rotation would look, they actually aren't too bad at all, hence why we've gone for this combination. You get Pope in game week 7, you get Roofs at home against Wolves in game week 8, you get Pope in 9 against Fulham at home. Then we get the home game against Everton for Roos, and you can see how this rotation continues to work each and every week. So if somebody isn't really happy with the Raya and Dubravka combination, I would recommend maybe checking out this goalkeeper rotation for you. Now, in terms of the defenders, I think Gabriel, if you own him, you absolutely keep him. And I still think if you can afford him, he is better than that of Saliba. He did go off slightly early in the Champions League game last night, but it does seem like it was just precautionary. Arsenal actually do have options available to them. Calaflori can play, Mosquera can play. I do think it is a bit of a warning sign that Gabriel and Saliba aren't going to be as fixed into this Arsenal team as what we once saw in previous seasons. I do think if Arteta wants to balance both the Champions League and the Premier League, he's going to have to rotate his centre-backs at times, and I do think he has the quality to do so. But I still think you've got to buy an Arsenal centre-back, and Gabriel would be the outstanding pick. Senesi kind of picks himself, and I also think Anderson long-term is a great pick. One that I was debating in game week 6, but when I actually look at the long-term fixtures for someone like him, he has got Bournemouth, Arsenal and Newcastle if you can bench, but then Wolves, Everton and Sunderland afterwards. Really good fixtures beyond that you're kind of looking at him as a long-term pick. Richards is a choice and Rodon in defence. I think the big differentials come in midfield. I still think Semenyo offers so much value with other teams playing in Europe. Bournemouth don't at all, and Semenyo is ticking over really nicely. The first big differential is going to be Anthony Gordon. So 7.4 million, only 1.2% owned. In last night's Champions League game, we had the confirmation that he basically is the penalty taker. We had Voldemara on the pitch, and Gordon still converted 2 penalties. At that price point, with these upcoming fixtures that you can see on your screen, Forest, Brighton, Fulham, West Ham, Brentford, Man City, I think if you look for a differential right now, they don't come much better than Anthony Gordon in our teams. Another big differential is going to be Minter. Everybody's going for Reinders right now, and I totally understand that, but I think Minter is actually quite a shrewd pick. 2.2% owned, has been featuring in every game for Brighton. Yes, there is the risk of rotation, but I do think he's established himself as a number 1 starter in that team. And the fixtures coming up, I think they got some great fixtures in there. Newcastle at home, around European football is not too bad. Leeds in game week 10, even Man United in game week 9, I would fancy them to win that game. So Minter instead of Reinders is absolutely an option. And the other big rotation here is going to be SAKA. A lot of people went for the Gyökeres draft with 2 Arsenal defence. If you're wildcarding right now, I think this is your opportunity to go for Bukayo Saka. 6% owned, 9.8 million. Yes, he's more expensive than Gyökeres, but I still think he's a much better pick than Gyökeres. We know the fixtures are fantastic. No Madueke, who's out until Christmas. I think once Saka's in that team, as we know, he is going to play each and every week. And if I was having my choice again, based on my team, I would go for Saka as opposed to Gyökeres, because the forwards have all of a sudden become quite interesting. Erling Haaland, of course, is in the team, but Jarrod Bowen for game week 7 is not a good pick away against Arsenal. But with Nuno coming in, I'm anticipating a bit of a swing for West Ham. When I look at their fixtures, it's a great time for Nuno to come in. Brentford in game week 8, Leeds, Newcastle, Burnley, Bournemouth. I think we're going to see a really good run from West Ham over this period. And Bowen, whoever has been the manager of West Ham, has always been the talisman. If you can accept the pain of maybe game week 7 against Arsenal, I think you'll get the gains long term. And the other one's going to be Mateta. Completely blindsided this guy in a game week 6 wildcard because we saw the fixture that they had against Liverpool. But afterwards, I think the fixtures are not too bad. Everton, Bournemouth, Arsenal in 9, but then they got Brentford, Brighton and Wolves afterwards, and Crystal Palace are just a really good team. So if I was wildcarding right now, this does have money in the bank. I think I would look to something like this. It's got some of the key players alongside some differentials. It doesn't have Bruno Fernandes for game week 7, but I do think after game week 7, he is one of those players that can be sacrificed. It doesn't have a third Arsenal. I think you could just go for rare between the sticks if you just want to get that locked in, and maybe upgrade one of the defenders to a Dan Burn and get yourself that coverage, which would then allow us to downgrade Roos in goal. I don't see Eze or Gyökeres being in this team alongside Saka in midfield. So what combination you could do is possibly going for rare between the sticks, like the template, and maybe just accepting you're going for a template team here. Downgrading Dubravka between the sticks still gives us money in the bank, and then if we really wanted to, what we could do is upgrade one of the defenders. Let's say, for example, Rodon didn't want to be in the team and we wanted to put a lot of money in the defence. We could put in Dan Burn if you want a piece of that Newcastle defence. Plenty of options, but hopefully a few differentials for you to consider. So looking ahead to game week 7, I wanted to cover off a few hot topics that are doing the rounds right now. I've probably covered off some already. I'm probably going to miss some. If I have, please do let me know in the comments section. So first up, Arsenal, because this is now coming into their decent run. I think West Ham is now a bit more of a difficult fixture as opposed to what it was under Graham Potter. But regardless, I do think Arsenal are a good investment for your team. So Eze, SAKA, Gyökeres, even Declan Rice are getting a lot of love right now. But if I had no Arsenal attackers at all right now, for me at 6% ownership, it would be Bukayo Saka. Being on set pieces, we know exactly what we get from Bukayo Saka, guaranteed game time, a proven player in this Arsenal team. I just think I'll go for Bukayo Saka 100%. I spoke about this in previous videos. Gyökeres is one of those picks that kind of went in by default because he is playing as a number 9 in Arsenal. If anybody's actually watched him, he isn't passing the eye test right now. And I think as soon as Kai Havertz is available, he will come back into the Arsenal team and Arteta will lean into the experience that Havertz will provide to the side. So I think Saka is absolutely the choice. Eze could be a good pick, but I also think very quickly he could move out onto that left-hand side once again, or not necessarily be a bench player, but a heavy rotation player at times. Now, this is the big one. If anyone that missed it in the Champions League, Alisson went off injured. We don't have the full idea of how long he's going to be out, but he's definitely out for game week 7 against Chelsea. Now, going to pronounce this wrong, but Mamardashvili, is he essential at 4.3 million? Well, if we get the news that Alisson is out for like up until Christmas, I think we got an amazing opportunity here to go for Liverpool defence at 4.3 million. Liverpool defence is not an attractive investment right now, but if I said to you 4.3 million for a title chasing team's goalkeeper, you're just going to go there. But as of right now, he's an avoid until we get an official update on Alisson, because if you buy him and Alisson's back in 2 game weeks, you've blocked yourself out of a third Liverpool spot if we ever need it. In terms of Liverpool as well, Ekitike went off injured. There was suspected hamstring injury. However, the most recent news is that it was just cramp rather than an injury. So if you own him right now, I feel sorry for you because you've had a great start. You've had a bit of pain recently, and it feels like whenever Ekitike starts, he is great value. But that's the big question. When is he going to start? I think Liverpool, the more they are playing like this, are going to move towards what they call a default team that we saw last season, with maybe Gakpo off the left, their midfield 3 of McAllister, Szoboszlai and Gravenberch in there. And I think that means that it's just going to be Isak and possibly Ekitike fighting out for the number 9. I think those minutes are going to be always a problem. I think I probably would sell Ekitike now. In terms of the best 3 differentials of game week 7, ironically, number 3 is going to be Watkins at home against Burnley. He's got the monkey off his back, finally scoring in game week 6. I do think he is a great pick. Would I buy him now? No. But if you own him, what an incredible differential for this week while others sold him. And number 2, we've spoken about it, is going to be Gordon. So lowly owned, now basically confirmed as the Newcastle penalty taker. I think he's great value long-term for your teams. But number 1 is going to be Saka. 6% owned Saka for a home game against West Ham, who will be tough, but long-term, what an incredible pick and a great option for game week 7. And finally, what to do with João Pedro, because I went on the site and saw that he is like the 2nd or 3rd most sold player going into game week 7. Now, I spoke about this a lot. I don't like João Pedro as much as others. I think he's going to get fatigued out because of the injuries that Chelsea do have. I think Chelsea are not clicking at all. And I just don't think João Pedro is a number 9. I fully think he is a number 10, playing off a number 9. That is where we get the best of João Pedro. We saw that at Brighton. We've seen that at Chelsea as well. For me, he hasn't been selected for the Brazil national team. He got the red card of the Champions League, meaning he's banned for the Champions League. So all he can play are Premier League games. As of right now, going into game week 7 in isolation, I would just keep him. I don't think there's enough good forwards. Bowen away against Arsenal, Mateta away against Everton. I would keep him for 1 more week and then reassess in game week 8. Any other hot topics that I missed, please do let me know in the comment section. So moving into my game week 7 team selection, I'm not going to draw this one out. Usually I go through my goalkeeper, defence, midfield, forward, because I actually do have a decision to make each and every week. Unfortunately, well, maybe fortunately for you, this is going to be a very short section because I'm rolling my transfer this week. I'm not going to hide it. I wildcarded in game week 6. Only if there was an injury was I going to make a transfer in game week 7. And the way that I selected my team, I personally feel selects itself for the 11. On the bench, Dubravka, Anderson, Stack and Rodon. Maybe there's an argument if we think that Spurs are going to be fatigued off the back of their game against Bodo Glimt in the Tuesday night game in Champions League. But honestly, I just don't see why I would start Leeds over any of the other players that I have selected. Now, of course, Gabriel is a possible risk if there was a reason behind him getting substituted in their Champions League game. But I think, based on what I've seen from Arteta's quotes, is that it was just they have the opportunity to rest people because of the depth that they have in their squad. So I'm going to go for the assumption that Gabriel is available, and worst case scenario, Anderson comes in and mops up what inevitably will be some defensive contributions. So just reading from top to bottom, Rare between the sticks alongside Gabriel for that double Arsenal defence, Senesi and Tarkowski making up the back three, Semenyo, Reinders, Bruno and Ndiaye in midfield, with Gyökeres, João Pedro and Erling Haaland up top with the captaincy. As I said, I think I've made a few mistakes in my wildcard, but that was the beauty of using the wildcard in game week 6. It gave me 2 free transfers for game week 7. It will give me 3 free transfers for game week 8. What I want to quickly do, if you're still sticking around, is just go through game week 8 and 9 just to show you what my transfers could be and also what my bench boost might look like, because I am looking to activate it over one of those weeks. For me, I just don't really love the bench boost for this particular game week, but maybe my mind will change closer to the deadline. So take a look at my game week 7 team and beyond with those future transfers and potential bench boosts. As I said, game week 7, there is a chance the bench boost could be used, but really I just don't love it. Let me know in the comment section if you would bench boost this team. I think there are other opportunities. So going into game week 8, the team would look like this. Now again, I don't love the actual bench boost here. Yes, we got Burnley at home against Leeds, and I got my Leeds players against Burnley, but we've also got Everton away against Man City that I'm forcing into this team. We've got Bruno Fernandes away against Liverpool. When I look at the actual fixtures in isolation for game week 8, I think it's a tough week. Forest against Chelsea, I don't feel like Chelsea players are essential. Brighton Newcastle is a very difficult game to predict. Palace against Bournemouth, once again, I spoke about how I want to invest in Palace, but it's worth noting that they do have Arsenal in game week 9. So if you buy Palace, I think it's a little bit counterintuitive for game week 8. So personally, I'm ruling out Palace players until game week 10 onwards, just as a bit of a caveat. Otherwise, Fulham Arsenal, tough game. Liverpool Man United, we never really know where that goes. West Ham Brentford, very interesting. When I look at my players here, Bowen is a temptation. Also, I would say Juve in defence. But is there enough for me to want to use those transfers in this game week to force a bench boost? I think the answer would be no. Coming into game week 9, this is the one that I think the bench boost looks the most likely. So I'm happy with the goalkeepers, Raya and Dubravka. Do I think Arsenal could keep a clean sheet against Palace? If any team's going to do so, it would be them. I could get myself to a situation where I've got 4 free transfers in this week, which would be fantastic. I've got good selections all about, really. I mean, all the players are fantastic. But I've got to look at the actual fixtures for game week 9 and ask myself, where is the upside if I want to go there? Well, there's a possibility that maybe Juve has just become an absolutely outstanding pick. Then Juve possibly coming into the team as opposed to a defender is an option. But I'm going to be honest, if you said to me right now, this is my bench boost team for game week 9, I'd be fine with it. I think Everton could do a job on Spurs 100%. So I'm pretty content with this team. In terms of transfers, as we discussed, Bowen and Juve are on my radar. I've also got Mateta and Sarr also as a plan. But I think game week 10 is where this is going to happen, because there's going to be a decision to make about João Pedro around game week 10 onwards. They've got Spurs, Wolves, Burnley away. If he continues to be a little bit fatigued, a little bit injury prone, I want to get myself into game week 10 with loads of transfers available, because I think I might actually be forced to make a little bit of a change in this team. If Gyökeres isn't really doing it, maybe a combination of Bruno Fernandes to SAKA, João Pedro to a Mateta to target the fixtures that they got going with Brentford in game week 10, and maybe a move to someone like Bowen if I wanted to, just to show you as an example and see if that is a feasible move. Bruno Fernandes to SAKA, Gyökeres to Bowen, and João Pedro to Mateta is a combination that I could absolutely see myself doing, and it kind of keeps track with those that maybe are wildcarding in game week 8 that are moving towards a front three or something like that. So I think that's absolutely a combination that could be considered. It gets me to Bukayo Saka if I deem him the one to go to. And do I feel like I go without Saka between now and game week 9? Yes, absolutely. I think Gyökeres could do the job. So lots to think about, but I think the bench boost in game week 9 is on the cards. And I think keeping transfers in the bank, knowing that there is huge value in doing so, is what I'm trying to play with my team right now. Let me know your thoughts. What are your plans going into game week 7? Yes, guys, okay, so that's going to wrap up today's video, looking at kind of everything, my team selection, my wildcard potential plans if I were on one, and of course my long-term plans. If I missed any questions, please do let me know in the comment section. I'll be sure to answer them. And if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to drop a like and of course hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day. Take care. Cheers.